And I have to say, while there may not be a toolkit as such for ESGR, I would encourage all of you to think of Bruce as a living toolkit because he's been such an incredible resource for so many organizations, ours included. So absolutely do connect with Bruce in the breaks and the networking. He can be so helpful. With that, it is now time for our first panel of the day. Panelists, please come up to the stage now. I'm going to kind of talk everyone through what to expect in the panel as you all are making your way up onto the stage. The first panel that we are covering is best practices to create a veteran inclusive culture. This is a special panel. It is comprised only of representatives of organizations that have received our highest possible award level, 5-star employers. So bottom line, these folks are best of the best. They know what they are talking about. We will talk about what makes a great workplace for veterans for about 30 minutes, and then we're going to reserve the last 5 or 10 minutes for your questions. So please join me in welcoming our panelists. They are Jeffrey DePasquale, Manager of Human Resources at Spectrum, Kevin Johnson, Director of Veteran Recruiting at Hearst Corporation, Michael Kelly, AVP and Military Affairs Deputy at USAA, and Jason Price, Head of UBS Veterans Affairs at UBS. Please give them a round of applause. Excellent. Thank you all so much for coming and joining me today. Let me start. I think it's always useful for these sorts of conversations to define your terms, make sure everybody's on the same page. So let's start there. And, I'm not going to ask these in any particular order. Please just feel free to jump in. But what is a veteran inclusive culture? How does your organization define it? And what are the most important components that make up a veteran inclusive culture?
I guess I'll start. So we at Spectrum define it as creating an environment where veterans feel valued, they feel respected, and they have an equal opportunity to thrive in their workplace. Some of the components to that, I would say, would be recognition of the skills that they bring to the table, having strong support programs such as BRGs, mentorship programs, inclusive policies, including policies that support USERA and not going further than that. And then just educating others on military service and what it means to be part of that.
I'll add to one of the components is your programs are as successful as the support of your senior leadership. And it's not just the senior leadership, but how that trickles down to all of the levels of your organization and identifying the areas of your organization that are the most supportive of helping, hiring, supporting, retaining veterans.
What I try, it's on, right? Yes, thank you. What I try to do is make sure that we celebrate our veterans and our military spouses on a continuous basis. At Hearst, we have several divisions, and the television division has had a military program for several years. About a year and a half ago, we moved it to the corporate level, and now it goes across all of our divisions. But it was one of my original goals was to be able to celebrate our military veterans, military spouses, so that when people heard that someone was a veteran, they recognized it and it became a conversation. So we truly try to celebrate our veterans continuously.
Yeah, at USA, we're a little unique in that we were formed by the military to serve the military. So for us, it's part of our DNA. It's in everything we do. It's part of our culture. It's baked into how we treat each other, how we serve our members. Going back to what Bruce talked about, it's also demonstrating to our Guard and Reserve employees, and we have about 400 actively serving Guard and Reserve employees at USA. That statement of support is very important. The Freedom Award is very important. How we treat them, the benefits that we provide is very important. So it's evidence in everything. It's in our rituals, our values, and I know we'll talk more about some of those activities, but it's part of our DNA at USA.
Excellent, great. So, we all have to keep in mind, we are working for companies. Companies need to make a profit. And initiatives like this are a lot easier to get the approval from leadership, which is absolutely crucial, if you can make a business case for why this is something that helps our bottom line, why this is something that is a, good, not just will feel good about it, but will help the business overall financially. So what is the business case for building a veteran inclusive culture at your organization?
I'd like to start with that one because, again, going back to who we are and who we serve, it's incredibly important that we understand and appreciate the military culture, right? So it's very important that we inculcate our employees because they're the ones who are on the phone with our members every single day. So how many USA members do we have out there? So when you call, they should be referring to you as your rank. They still call me Major Kelly. It's kind of nice and reassuring, but it's really an element of all that we do at USA. So the better we understand our members, the better we're able to serve them. And that really adds to the bottom line. It also adds to loyalty. 96% of USA members stay with us because of that culture and that connection to the military community. So it's got to be part of who you are. It's got to be part of your mission. It's got to be part of your culture. And going back to what you said earlier, it's got to come from the top down. If you don't have that commitment from your CEO and your senior leaders, it's not going to happen.
Sometimes it's about educating certain senior leaders. And a quick story, a couple of years ago, I wanted to get a program going with military veterans in a sales program for media sales. And I reached out to the VP of sales for our television company, and I had proposed this to him, and he said, I just don't think that military people would make good salespeople. And so I was on a video call with him, and I emailed him a spreadsheet that had 19 names on it. And he said, "What is this?" And I said, "These are all military veterans that are selling for our company right now." And he said, they're kind of the top wage earners. So bottom line, when it comes to actually selling, it works out really well for us.
I think for us, it's kind of a qualitative and quantitative approach, right? Financial services firm. We want to know that we are putting the right investment to these individuals. We see a higher retention rate, obviously, but it also provides that culture of integration, mentorship, and all of those sort of qualitative things that make it a better place for the veterans to work. That adds to the retention as well.
I would say the business case is just bringing on top tier talent is really important to any business. And you have veterans that come in with incredible leadership skills, attention to detail, strong work ethics, and that in turn reinforces performance, efficiency, and a better bottom line to begin with. So it kind of in tune just makes sense to have a good business case that way.
Great answers. And Jason, you very well anticipated the next item I wanted to talk about, mentioning retention. Talk about how a good, strong, veteran inclusive culture can help you with retention of your veteran employees, and also even before that, can be a driver for recruiting and hiring great veteran employees.
Well, understanding the individuals going through a transition, what they're facing, right? Understanding that they're not just a regular new hire coming into an organization, but they have factors like, okay, they're going from active service to a corporate environment. Maybe they're moving their family from one area to another part of the globe, the country. And how are we going to provide them, not say a soft landing, but sort of a soft landing into an organization? Training, mentoring, engaging them to proactively network across an organization. And a lot of it's got to come to also looking at organizations like ACP, AWP, and how do we support them, through the benefits financially, et cetera.
Everyone else, please.
So I just transitioned out of the military after 20 years in 2023. And the most important thing to me was finding a home that, I didn't call it finding an inclusive home, but that's what I wanted. I wanted that team environment. And so when I was looking at different companies, I spoke with Spectrum, and I ended up, they connected me directly with veterans that were working there. And you can relate to veterans. Those that have been in your shoes, you can relate to them. They're honest, brutally honest, but honest. I immediately felt that culture, and that's really what put me over the line to bring me onto them.
I think the important thing is if you want to attract military talent, you got to position your company as a military-friendly employer or a military-thriving employer. So being active in that external space, pursuing awards like the Freedom Award, you're demonstrating to veterans and military spouses that you want to hire them. You know, there's been a lot of discussion over the years about military spouses not wanting to self-identify because they're going to have to PCS. At USA, we want military spouses. We want veterans to work at USA because they understand our members and can serve them well. But I want to go back to the award, the Vets Indexes award, and the data, the richness of that data. So for years, we were fat, dumb, and happy. We didn't not have an attraction problem at USA. We still don't have an attraction problem at USA. We have a retention problem. And that was identified through the research and the reports that we got back from Vets Indexes. So we've pivoted over the last several years to develop more programs that will allow us to retain and develop those very, very critical veteran and military spouse employees.
Yeah, retention is an issue, but recruiting is another one. And we've had several situations where our military veterans, military spouses, if they have a great experience and you have a great culture within your company, they're going out, they have the largest military network. So they're going out and they're talking to their friends and their family and telling them what a great company that they work for. So I literally had 2 years ago, one of the members of our ERG met two gentlemen that were in uniform at a Starbucks. They just happened to be waiting for their order. And he started talking about Hearst as a company. And one of those two now work for us. And more recently, there's an Army captain that got a job at a television station in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And 6 months later, she called me and said, my sister's getting out in 4 months. Can you see what you can do for her? So I'm very proud of the networking ability that you can do just within your own veterans.
Great stuff. Really great stuff. We've been talking a lot about what you all can do to make your companies more welcoming to veterans, and that's all great. I think we also, a useful way to approach this is look at it from the reverse angle. There's nothing that's going to be a challenge to your retention and your recruiting faster than if veterans feel unwelcome at your organization. So what are some of the mistakes companies can make that sometimes make veterans feel unwelcome, and how can you avoid those?
I'll take a stab at that, and kind of talks to what Bruce was just talking about too, to make sure that you have that inclusive culture. Do you have the benefits that support the veterans? Are you USERRA compliant at a minimum? Are you at least looking at what your competitors are doing so you're competitive with your space in your industry, right? And that you are working with your HR departments. As a matter of fact, we're going through that right now, doing an audit on our reserve and guard benefits to make sure that we are being competitive because we want to attract individuals in that capacity.
It's interesting to see how many people that are veterans. Jeff, you're a different situation here because you just got out a couple of years ago. But there are so many resumes that I see that their military experience isn't even on the resume. And if they got connected to me, they got connected to me because I know that they served. That's how we got connected. And it's interesting because when I talk to them, I ask them why their military experience isn't on the resume. And these are people that maybe served 4 to 6 years and it was 10 years ago. And I think, and I'll talk to Bruce's, the ESGR, there's a lot of companies out there that really don't make accommodations for reserve component. And I've had people that come to work for us and that they almost hide the fact that that they have a dual career. And I don't think they use it anymore, but that part-time soldier thing used to drive me crazy. It truly is a dual career. So you have to be a company that is welcoming to not only veterans, but people that are serving a dual career, and let them know that it's okay to go out on active duty training, especially when you're trying to build up your skill set and get promoted. So there's a lot you can do just with your culture.
So I'd like to come right after that, because one of the things that Kevin mentioned was not putting it on their resume. I think one of the issues that some employers can have is not being able to translate skills. Not all service members are perfect at translating shooting rockets and artillery into HR. So some things are a little bit harder than others. And if you're able to translate those skills and you have the veterans that are there that are able to help, one of the things that I see a lot is I'm not in talent acquisition, I'm an HR business partner, but I'll get resumes that someone will ask, what do you think, or can you talk to this person? Because it really, you can cut through all that translating. And if employers cannot translate or don't recognize the challenges that veterans go through, then that's a barrier.
I think one of the biggest mistakes that companies can make is not recognizing the value of the veterans and military spouses that they employ, not recognizing their unique experience and their skills. Quite honestly, we've created a community for them. So we talked about diversity business groups or belonging and impact groups or ERGs, whatever you want to call them. I think that's an important aspect of making sure that you're able to attract and retain veteran and military spouse employees, is creating a community for them. So how many of you have heard of Slack? It's like another chat channel, right? I don't need another chat channel, but everybody at USA loves Slack. So we've created a community for our veteran and military spouse employees, and everybody loves to send messages through Slack. Well, I'm very seldom on it, so I get these messages, hey, did you see my Slack? I was like, no, just send me an email. But it's important to create that community out there, and everybody wants to be seen, heard, understood, appreciated. I can't tell you how many veterans and senior military leaders I've talked to over the years, and I've been at USA now for 21 years. Mike, I gotta lead. I gotta be out there in front. I need more. Well, you have to understand, depending on the business, at USA, it's a lot of individual contributors. There's not a whole lot of senior leader manager positions. You have to have a very niche skill. So you have to make sure that you take care of your employees, make sure they're seen, heard, understood, and appreciated. And that's part of the culture that we've created at USAA.
Great stuff. Really great stuff. So let's start breaking into the details here. For each of your organizations, what do you consider kind of the most important, most central components, building blocks that create that veteran inclusive culture? Are we talking events? Are we talking about displays, recognition in various forms, ID badges? Talk about what you all think is kind of most central to what you do.
I'd like to start with that because we have a very strong military acumen training program at USAA. About 23% of our 37,000 employees are military affiliated. So we define that as military spouse, domestic partner, veteran, Guard and Reserve service members. So only 23% of our employees served in the military. So it's important for us to make sure that we inculcate the rest of the organization, especially our senior executives, in military acumen. So we have a requirement that every executive at USA has to personally attest, sign on the dotted line that I received 5 hours of military acumen training during the year. So that's one of the important elements for us, is document the fact that you are focused on this and you have made a commitment to learn and grow about the military community. So that's one of the important things. Another one, and it seems like a small thing, but we have what we call mission moments. There's not a meeting that happens at USAA that we don't throw up our mission slide, which shows our connection to the military. We also have mission moments where employees, they may not have any connection to the military whatsoever, but they're able to tell a story about how they served our members. So those mission moments happen before every single meeting. And it's just a very, it's baked into everything that we do, so we can keep that culture alive at USA.
I'll go next. So we have a lot of components that go into this, but if we're talking about the most important aspect of it, I would just say very foundationally, embedding inclusivity into daily operations in everything we do. We're not a separate group. We can highlight veterans. We can highlight lots of different groups, but it's just at no point from day one of being a fellow right out of actually currently in active duty at the time, at no point did I feel like I was an outsider. I always felt like I was part of the team, and that embedding that inclusivity, I think, is the most important for us.
I mean, our side, every time there's a new hire class cohort or the cohort graduates into their full-time roles, we do a big to-do internally and externally. Our social media campaigns highlight their success and activities and things like that. I think actually go a long way. And it's, we don't give ribbons and badges necessarily, but that acknowledgement out there to the universe is important to them.
Veterans Day is like our Christmas, it's our Hanukkah, it's our Super Bowl, but that's just one day a year, and milk even gets an entire month, of recognitions. But we also celebrate Military Appreciation Month. We do events. We just had Doug Melville is the author. I don't know if anybody of you read the book Invisible Generals, but it's about the first 2 Black generals to serve in the Army, and it's absolutely incredible. He came, spoke to us. And the nice thing about these types of events is you not only have the military veterans in, but you have leadership and those people that have not served. So they get constantly exposed to our military culture. The thing that I'm very proud of is about once every 2 months, we have what we call the Hearst Military Might Spotlight. And we take one individual in our group and we do a deep dive. And we talk about their military history, what they did in the military, and how it shapes them and how it helps them in their job today. And this goes out in our ERG, which we have about 400 members. But then I create it's kind of fun because I get to play reporter. But then I create a PDF out of it, and that PDF gets emailed to everyone in their chain of command. So even if it's somebody that works for a newspaper in San Antonio, even though their boss is not a military veteran or part of our organization, they will get that PDF, and so will their boss and their boss, all the way up to the president of the division. So it's kind of a sly way to market yourself, but it's a great way to celebrate one individual and their commitment.
Just throw in one more thing. It seems very small, but all of our military affiliated employees, we give them a little flag that goes on their workstation. It's a VetNet. VetNet's the name of our employee resource group. And we do that purposefully. So when employees who don't have military experience, if they're looking around their workspace, they know who the military affiliated employees are. But that is a sign to them that I can go to that person and ask questions and learn more. So simple things. And it's everything from big events to just having a flag that you are a military member and your service affiliation is on that flag.
Fantastic. So we're getting near the end of the panel. I've got one more question for the panelists, and then I want to reserve some time for all of you to chime in with questions. So if you have some questions, be thinking of them and be ready to raise your hand after this. But last question for the panelists. Talk to me about what you and your organization does to support veteran employment beyond the walls of your own organization, and try to build a more welcoming and inclusive veteran employment market across the country.
I'll start, and my boss is sitting here, but I get paid to hire or to recruit military veterans into our company, but my passion is just trying to help people who have served. So there are certainly a number of people that I talk to on a regular basis that are not interested in a position at Hearst, but I will try to help. I will review resumes. I'll have conversations with them. One of the tools, and I'm not trying to blow smoke, George, but one of the tools, especially, and Jeff was talking about translating skills earlier, one of the tools that I give them is the Vets Indexes page, and tell them the 5-star, the 4-star, the 3-star. These are people that already understand the military community, and if they're having issues translating their skills, that these companies might be best to talk to first.
I love that. That's a great one. I'll go back to that benefits conversation earlier too. It's, helping them navigate. You may not be able to hire them particularly or help them directly, but connecting them to your partner firms competing firms, knowing who your head of Veterans Affairs are at these relevant areas, so you can make those connections for them. I mentioned American Warrior Partnership before, and so helping them even just navigating that sea of goodwill, right? 40,000 not-for-profits and government agencies, right? It could be pretty daunting, right? So helping them, making those connections, I think is the best thing we can do.
So we participate in job fairs and hiring events where obviously we're trying to recruit, top talent, but we're very open to helping with best practices, tips, looking at resumes, there's times where someone's overqualified or underqualified for a position that we have open, but we don't stop there. We network, we ensure that they have some of the skills that it would take to land them a job. And especially, this is both for veteran employees and employees that are not veterans, but on the veteran side specifically, a lot of our recruiting events are attended by actual veterans that, and we're able to just connect with them on that basis and really try and just genuinely help their transition out of wherever they're going.
Yeah, we've made a public commitment, our CEO about 5-6 years ago, 1% of our pre-tax income goes back to local communities where we serve and the military community. So that's about $40 to $50 million annually. So we support organizations like American Corporate Partners, AWP, Hiring Our Heroes. We know that we can't hire all the military spouses and veterans that are out there because about 200,000 go in every year and 200,000 come out. Last year, we hired maybe 7,000, 8,000 employees. So we know that we can do more to build resilience in the military community by giving back to the military community and organizations like 4Block and other organizations, Hire Heroes USA. So we've got a pretty big portfolio of folks that we support philanthropically so that we can equip them to do the great work that needs to be done in that space.
Fantastic. Now I would love to take some questions from the audience. Please just raise your hand and wait for my colleague Nick to bring around a mic.
Which handsome bald man are you going to ask the first question?
Or Jason.
Or Jason, let's be inclusive.
Or Jason.
Good morning. I just want to thank the panelists for being there and providing their keen insight. My question's for Mike, Greg from Warner. I'm curious on the education piece that you mentioned, where you have your senior leaders, sign on the dotted line about, hey, I'm going to learn 5 hours of information over the course of a year. Can you maybe share where you get those, either where they get that information or they attend something to get their 5-hour block, or how they execute that?
Yeah, so for senior executives, our senior vice presidents, our CEO and executive council members, our military affairs team actually will build a specific military acumen event for them. So we might go out to the National Training Center in California. We might go see the B2 wing. So we have about 50 military affairs reps all over the country. So we use them as our subject matter experts to expose senior executives out there on military installations. But not everybody, we can't take everybody on a military installation or do a boss lift. So we have created a culture page. It's Go Culture Strong. We put resources out there for them. If we have a military employee at USA, they still have their military badge. We encourage them to use that badge to take USA fellow employees out to local military installations. But we've created the resources for them. Every single event, our Memorial Day event, Veterans Day event, military appreciation event, military spouse appreciation, if they attend service birthdays, we celebrate every single service birthday by bringing in an external speaker. We have a birthday cake, we celebrate it, we broadcast it live to all our employees. So if you attend any of those events, you're going to get those 5 hours. We make it exceptionally easy for them to do that. If they don't get those 5 hours, it's their fault.
Folks, thank you very much for participating in this panel. If you were to think about the deepest source of veteran talent, is there a network out there, a veterans network, that offers kind of the deepest, richest source of veterans talent that you folks use?
Externally?
Externally, yeah,
So,
externally.
There's a pay-to-play as recruitmilitary.com, but of course, ACP has their network of individuals.
Jason, would you speak on the
Oh,
mic?
sorry about that. I usually project pretty well, so. So ACP is a great source for us. also might add that you may want to build relationships with your TAP offices at the local installations. We do really well there. And I mentioned that recruitmilitary.com is a really good resource for us, but again, that's a pay to play.
It's a great question because I'm not sure if there's a deep resource. I mean, we work with Hiring Our Heroes. ACP is, and I think you've probably heard ACP 5 or 6 times. Right, you bet, 5 or 6 times. And that is something that we build our military community at our company with by recruiting mentors for ACP. But 50 Strong is another great company. Hiring Our Heroes. P3 there, but I don't know. Does anybody have a deep resource more than the others?
I think you're right. I don't know about a deep resource by itself. We definitely use Hire Our Heroes, and that's close to my heart because that's how I landed my position. But there's all kinds of different hiring events that we use.
There's also organizations like 51 Vets, Honor Foundation, depending on what you're targeting, where they are helping maybe the more special ops side of service members.
Yeah, there's some significant, sizable organizations that really do a fine job. Hiring Our Heroes is one of our key partners. Institute for Veterans and Military Families. JP Morgan Chase has their Veterans Job Mission. But it's not hard to find those resources online. Another one I want to call out, and Dan Kleppel, where's Dan? Is here somewhere? He was here with Vet Jobs. There he is over there. So you got Vet Jobs and Mil-Spouse Jobs. And, with Bruce talking earlier about employers' support for the Guard and Reserve, they focus specifically on support for the Guard and Reserve. So Vet Jobs and Mil-Spouse Jobs is another great organization that we support at USA. But Hiring Our Heroes is kind of our SkillBridge partner. We became an official DoD SkillBridge partner with an MOU, but we use Hiring Our Heroes to execute that because it requires staffing and resources internally to work those fellowship programs. So they actually find the talent for us. We tell them, we've got these 40 fellowship opportunities, find us the talent. So they find us the talent, we interview them, and that's why we like Hiring Our Heroes so much. Hiring Our Heroes is part of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation.
Can I ask a question? Now that you brought up SkillBridge, can I raise a hand? Are you SkillBridge certified? Is your company SkillBridge certified? Yeah, it's a challenge. I know it's and that's a great program as well. We just got certified. So it's interesting to see the percentage of people that are SkillBridge certified.
Have fun with the MOU process.
Yeah, I'm past that.
Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jennifer. I'm with Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. And as a 5-star employer, what has been your recipe for success for getting hiring manager buy-in and changing the mindset of hiring managers to go the route of veterans and military spouses?
I would say show them what they're missing. I mean, there's 3 Hiring Heroes cohorts annually. We usually have about 30 to 35 fellows. And when we first were getting started, they're like, oh, I don't know if I want it. Oh, well, listen, you're going to get free labor for 12 weeks. You're going to be able to test them out. You're going to be able to see if they're able to handle it. And since we started promoting the program and hiring fellows, and we've hired probably 200 fellows through the program since they started that, it's like, everybody wants more. It's like, hey, Mike, can I get a fellow this year? I don't know. Do you have a job available? Because what we like to do direct hire roles. So there's actually a job waiting for them, not a fellowship opportunity where then they'll have to compete for a role. So we have direct hire roles. Some organizations within USA will have a non-direct hire role. They'll bring them in, but then they have to network and look for a role. So still get the opportunity, but it's not a direct hire role. So it's just showing everybody else what they're missing by hiring these fellows is how we've grown.
Basically invite those from outside your firm to come in and talk about success stories.
Yeah, I think a lot is in the numbers. So one is education and talking about the skills. But once you get that ball rolling and you can see the success stories, you can show them veterans that have not only come through that program, come on board, but been promoted. It's just in success stories that really that snowball just keeps going.
Okay, we probably have time for one last question. one or two, maybe.
Hi, Mike Ma from S&P Global. Would love to hear your thoughts on different parts of the organizations that have traditionally been very successful in hiring veteran talent and being able to retain and upskill veteran talent as well.
If you think of roles at USA, so we're at financial services, a lot of compliance and audit and things like that. Military folks do very, very well in that compliance space. You think of somebody who served as an inspector general. Compliance and risk roles are very popular. Project management. We also have roles at USA. We call them executive operational planning managers. They're basically executive officers for senior executives. So those are exceptionally great opportunities for folks. But I want to call out the folks at Opline, and Bo is here from Opline, which is it's not a skills translator, it's a skill alignment tool. And we have been using that, now 3 or 4 years. We were one of the first companies to come online because the magic of that program is military service members who might not even know what they're qualified for. They fill out the information. It's lots of questions. How long did you serve? What was your rank? What was your MOS, your specialty code? You put all that in, takes you to another page. What were your certifications, leadership? When you hit submit, and this is where the magic happens through machine learning and the hard work that Opline has already done, it scrapes every single requisition, full-time position at USAA, and delivers them a list of jobs that they actually qualify for. And a lot of these younger folks are going, oh, I had no idea. What's change management? I could do change management. So that's an important tool for us, is being able to align their skills and have them see themselves what opportunities are available to them.
I think that's a great point, because the first role that I think about is project management, because every single service member can do project management. I fully agree with that. But the key is, and what we've seen is translating those skills, that opens up the door to so many more roles. We have business planning roles, HR roles, data roles. There's so many other things that it opens up to. And if you can translate those skills and understand what they can bring to the table, I think, yes, they can do project management, but I think some of them can do probably many other things.
Excellent. We are just about at time, but we'll take one more question. I don't know who's got the mic.
They took it away.
Nick was shutting you down.
Good morning. Thank you. Great panel. Fantastic information. My name's Jim Lindsay. I'm with Southern New Hampshire University. I'm not in talent acquisition. My role is connecting our 30,000 veterans, military spouses, and other dependents with great employers. So I'm glad you're all here today. Shout out, somebody mentioned 50 Strong. Southern New Hampshire University is an education partner with 50 Strong. I've also personally been a mentor with ACP for a few years now. I've taken a little break, but I've mentored, I think, 3 or 4 military spouses. So, one thing that we see in Jason, I really appreciate, you're the first one that mentioned the word retain, right? We can recruit veterans and spouses into jobs, but if it's not the right fit, and I think, Jeffrey, you mentioned, you can recruit somebody in, but if they were trying to get somebody in, if they were blowing up bridges, how do you translate that, right? So, and we mentioned a lot of great other organizations that employers can work with, but obviously some smaller companies that want to hire and retain veterans, they may not have the budget and the bandwidth and the man and women power to do that. I think statistically it's around 50% of veterans leave their first job, right, as they transition out. What is one thing, I guess the number one takeaway for maybe say some of those smaller companies that they can do to help make sure they're hiring those veterans into the right jobs so they stay?
I think part of it is communicating up front what that role is going to be. At USA, 50% of our employees are on the phones. Call center roles are just exceptionally hard to fill. So a lot of turnover in that space, regardless of whatever retention programs you've got. So I think communicating right up front, expectations of the job, their responsibilities, and how that's going to work for them, provide a career path, because a lot of times in the military, you know exactly, hey, I'm going to get promoted to this rank after 2 years. I'm going to go to this school then. You have to be very self-actualized in corporate America to succeed. No one is looking out for you. We don't have career managers in corporate America to help you do that. It's primarily up to you. Now, there's a lot of resources available for people, but you have to know where to find them. So I would say just make sure they understand fully what they're getting into, and I think that can help alleviate some of the turnover that happens.
For a small organization, start small, be very bespoke, be very hands-on, and then learn from that experience as you grow, right? We found that even with us, when we started our programs 10, 11 years ago, we started with 3, right? We're 30,000 people in the US, right? So we started 3, we learned from it, we learned a lot, and you just grow and learn and evolve from that.
Excellent. Everyone, please join me in thanking our panelists.